Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. You're moving right along with this class. This week we are focusing on the Toulmin essay and the Toulmin method of argumentation. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of my expectations for this week and things that you might want to really pay attention to in the lesson. So as always, read the announcement, which I don't have loaded yet. Click on content. And then I want you to move on to week 4 and then click on the learning material. Your readings and resources start with the week 4 chapter 4 lesson. And this chapter is really helpful. It is covered in the lesson itself, but I want to point out a couple of things. So very important, and we discussed this a little bit in the first week, it is really important that when you give a persuasive discussion, i.e. argument, you need to recognize the opposing viewpoint. And it's critical that you're fair when you state the opposing viewpoint. Don't just understate it. Don't just give a little bias. Don't just make up what you think they really are saying. Don't insult the other side, because your goal, especially with the Toulmin argument, is to win over others who don't agree with you. And the best way to do that is to fully explain and understand their point of view. So this would entail doing your homework. Don't just guess. Do some research to see what the opposing viewpoint is and have a good idea of what the other side thinks, because that is what will make people fall in line with what you believe. So, understanding the complexity of the opposing view. Basically, don't understate it. Don't forget things that the opposing view believes in, and instead, give all the nuances, understand the nuances so you can argue against them. And no one likes to be understated. No one likes to be washed over. Everyone wants their side and their point of view to be understood. And that's the way you win over people. It's kind of like a compliment, right? Where you're listening to the other side, you're letting them know that you understand what they're saying, and that's what it means by understanding the complexity of the opposing point of view. Also, if it's a very emotional subject, so we can all think of emotional subjects right now, right? Politics, abortion issues, the war, there's so many things that are heightened emotionally. You need to recognize this with the opposition. Whether you're for or against something, it doesn't matter. Just recognize how the opposing view might feel. Let's move down. I know I'm probably whipping through this, which might be hard to follow online. So once you fully understand the opposing point of view, and you're going to be working on a Toulmin argument next week, you need to summarize the opposing view. Give your side, then summarize the opposing view so you show that you understand it. And then you're going to give a counter argument, and that would be part of the Toulmin method of argumentation. So I would like for you to read this essay, because it does give you a very good understanding of how you should organize a Toulmin argument. And also there's some vocabulary words that you might find helpful, not easy, but helpful in understanding what the argument is. The claim is basically the thesis statement. The support would be the use of logos and all of the rhetorical techniques, right? Especially logos, having specific researched backup points that will help you support that claim. Then you have the qualifier, which, generally you don't want to just say it's always this way. Instead, your qualifier would be something like it's mainly this way, but sometimes it might not be, but for the most part it's this way. You qualify what you're saying. You're not saying it's 100% one way. If there are things that could cause it to your point of view not to be justified, then mention that too. That would be the qualifier. The warrant is just basically what both sides would agree, what both sides hold to be factual. And then backing would be any sort of backing to prove the warrant, just in case you're not sure if the other side agrees with your warrant. And then the concession and the rebuttal. So you would make a concession for things that possibly do not align with your argument. And then the rebuttal is refuting the counter argument, refuting the other side. Okay? So let's move back to the lesson this week. That was a really brief overview, I know, but it's very important that you read through the Toulmin argument, because there's a lot within the argument that you need to include in your assignment next week. Now, this kind of discusses why use Toulmin. I discussed that in the beginning of this video. You want to show that you understand the other side. You want to kind of like ease them in, make them feel good, make them realize that yes, you think they're smart. Yes, you see what their point of view, and yet have they looked at this? That would be your rebuttal, right? So when you say their point of view, that would be the counter argument to your own argument. Evaluating evidence. Something important to remember is that when you're looking up evidence to support your point of view, you need to be very careful that you're not bringing in biased sources, because the reader will know. So for example, and I'm going to say both sides of the media. For example, you have CNN, MSN. Those have a tendency to be a little bit biased. Also, Fox News, and I think it's News Now or Newsmax. I'm not entirely sure. But those are biased on the other side. You need to find non-biased sources, and the best and most accurate sources you can find would be peer-reviewed journal articles and newspaper articles. Okay, newspaper articles you can use for specific facts and figures. Peer-reviewed articles you would use to find experts who know about the subject that you would be discussing. Okay, make sure to go through all of these claims or these definitions here, because you will need to include those in your Toulmin method next week. And let's see. So this basically shows you how to organize a Toulmin essay. So you start with the claim, and then you show the, well, actually, this is not the claim. I apologize. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we go. Sorry. This is the claim. This is the hook. And this is your thesis. Okay, when you write your Toulmin argument next week, you need to have a claim. So that's your claim right there. All right. So these are the components that I discussed in the lesson that you're reading. The support, which would be the logos, which would be the rhetorical technique. The data would be the specific points that prove what you're saying. And the warrant, as I mentioned, it's the underlying assumption, but it still needs support, possibly, and that would be the backing. All right? So then let's move on. This has more warrant and backing. And then this would be the concession. This would be the counter argument, right? And then the rebuttal would be how you refute that counter argument, or if you take some of the concession and you understand and you agree with it, then write that down there too, that you concede that yes, this could possibly be an issue, but have you looked at this? And then more concessions and rebuttals, and then you have your conclusion. This is how you should organize your Toulmin assignment next week as well. All right, so this week you have two things. One is a quiz. I'm obviously not going to take it in front of you, although that would be kind of funny, right? But I'm not going to do that. You actually will have to take the quiz. It could be a little tricky. Read through the lesson, but note, this is open book. So you can look through your notes, you can look through your lessons, you can even use the internet. Really, it's just driving home what the lesson had discussed and the chapter. So I'm not expecting you to memorize things, but I do want you to understand. And the best way to understand is to find confirmation through your sources so you can do well in the quiz and so you can do well next week for your assignment. You also have a discussion note that, and let's pull up the discussion. So I'm going to pull up the discussion. Let's see. There it is. Okay. So you have 4 groups here. You can choose one of the 4, and it's very similar to last week's, not last week's, but week 2, where you had to choose a speech. Well, this time you're choosing an argument in an article, and you get to discuss it. And so the first one will be about remote work, which is something I can really identify with. The second one would be actually about real estate agents. I find this a little interesting because they can be quite pricey. So read this, see what you think, and argue for or against, or discuss how the article organizes itself as well. Then you've got, let's see if I can pull this out, the Surgeon General's warning on social media, which is kind of interesting because that's been in the news lately. And finally, you have something about Ozempic, which is kind of interesting how that's affecting the food industry. So I hope you find the readings this week interesting. If you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know. I'm here for you. And I should have returned all of your essays from last week, but if I had not, please let me know. If you have any questions, please let me know. That's why I'm here. I want to help you. All right, you guys have a great week, and I shall see you online.